public hearing of the town of Westville to order.
Is that on?
I think we're on. Are we on? We're on, okay. First of all, going to begin by saying that we are in Mi'kmaq, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. And we are all treaty people. I also want to acknowledge the history, contributions, and legacies of the African Nova Scotia people who've been here for over 400 years. And I think are we okay? Can you hear out there at all? No, I don't think we need them. I think it's good. We'll see. Roll call. So we have our planning officer, Sean Day, Councillor Sarah McKinnon, Councillor Clary McKinnon, CAO Weirs, myself, Mayor Lenny White, Deputy Mayor Bernie Murphy, Councillor McGregor, Recording Secretary Reed, all in place and accounted for. Any declaration of conflict of interest for the hearing portion of their meeting? Hearing none. Going to move on to the first item on the public hearing, and that's the development application agreement. Okay, sorry. Let's go back and approve the tentative agenda. Sorry about that. Have a motion to approve the hearing agenda.
I would move that we accept the agenda as presented.
Seconded.
There we go.
Moved and seconded. Ready for the question?
Question.
Questions called. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carried. Now let's move on to the development agreement application for the development agreement to create a 10 pre-manufactured for sale residential units and a series of compact lots on the north side of Drummond Road and Queen Street. So Sean, are you going to take the first at this, or are we going to call upon Stephanie from Shaw Developments? We're going to call upon Stephanie from Shaw Developments.
So do we just use this mic? Pull this one out? Yeah.
Yeah, I can.
Kristen, that mic work?
It should. Just make sure that it's switched to on.
I have a belly in the way to move this up. Good evening. Good to be here with you all. I know I met you over virtual FaceTime the first time, and you would have seen the CEO of the company, Dean Robertson, and our VP, Glenn Hardy, for the first real PAC. So I was on vacation, and it's good to be here with you all tonight. I believe, that isn't showing what's on the screen here. Let's see.
You know what? Hang on 2 seconds. I saw that there's two. I've got two loaded. Let me just kill this one.
No, it's working.
I can't even see my mouse anymore. Oh, it's over there probably. Oh yeah, there it is. Look at that. It's on extend.
Your cell phone problem. Folks at home can see it now.
We don't want it on extend, do we? We want it on. Nope, that's not what we want. So maybe we've got this on the wrong setting. What do we want it on? Extend or mirror?
Mirror, probably.
Probably, yeah. So this is new technology for us. We have not tried this yet.
This is new today.
Stephanie, you get the pleasure of using our screen for the first time. On this
Display
screen.
settings. So duplicate these displays, I think it's,
Just to be able to see it.
It's like
show
TV.
only on one, show on two. So let's try duplicate. Oh, yeah, I think that's what we want.
Yeah.
It's also a new to me laptop. Just to spice things up a little bit. Development agreements, active. Everyone's going to know my whole file structure here now. Okay. Go away. That looks right.
See. Here we go.
Perfect.
Great.
So I'm sure council is familiar with the Shaw Group at this point in our application, but for any members of the public, I'll give a little bit of history of the company. The Shaw Group is 160 years old and has 10 divisions. 2 of those divisions are Clayton Developments and Prestige Homes. So the endeavor that we're undertaking in Westville and in some other towns in outside of HRM in Nova Scotia is that we're looking to provide housing that is affordable to the average income. And so Clayton and Prestige are sort of teaming up to look for solutions and ways to do that. So some of the key ways we're looking to reduce costs from, say, our stick-built homes in Halifax is through using the modular designs of Prestige homes, standardizing our construction practices, using smaller footprints, and then on a project-by-project basis, we look very carefully at our infrastructure designs for cost savings as well. I just wanted to address this plan, as I believe this caused a bit of confusion last time at the Planning Advisory Committee. So this plan shows a variety of unit styles that we're enabling through the development agreement. Semi-detached units, longer units, and then our small, what I'll refer to as half modular homes or half minis. And this plan is intended to show the range that are being enabled through the development agreement, but not necessarily what we're intending to build. So from the beginning, our intent was to use these half modular homes across 10 lots in Westville. We heard council loud and clear that variability is really important here, and we want to make the units look not all exactly the same. So we went back and we brainstormed all the possible ways to modify the front without compromising our goal to provide a certain price point for the market. So some of the ways that we came up with are varying the step back. So you'll see in this rendering here that we've got units that are further away from the road and they aren't all in one flat line. Each unit will be, not every single of the 10 units, but there will be a variety of colors provided. No house within 2 to 3 lots will be of the same color, and they'll each have a couple different architectural features incorporated. So the deck styles will be different, the roof structure on the deck, the orientation of the stairs. Those are the key changes we're looking to make. The development agreement does incorporate some other options for us, but those are going to be the lowest cost changes that we can make in order to keep our price point low. As of this afternoon, I did receive the traffic memo back from WSP. I didn't even get a chance to send this on to Sean yet, but I can send that as soon as I sit down in my chair. The memo does show exactly what we all would have expected, that pink area hatched in, coming around the corner is an area that will need to be graded down and free and clear of tall vegetation in order to make lots 8, 9, and 10 safe to back in and turn out of. And lot 1 it's recommended that the slip line off Queen Street is removed in order for the safety of the driveway of lot 1. But lots 2 through 7 have been cleared for development as is. And so we're likely going to go with lots 4 through 7 for our initial development. And they will be these half modular styles with this 576 square foot layout, 2 bedrooms in the back. And that's a rendering in the right-hand corner, but there are 2 small real photos of the interior of one of these units. I thought Sean might show these renderings, so I put them after my last slide, but these are just a couple more renderings of what the community might look like. And that essentially concludes my presentation, but happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you.
Sean, do you want to?
So I thought you might include those renderings, so I put very few in mine. All right. So if anyone's here for this public hearing, this is a public hearing that we're in, so that's a very specific thing within the context of land use planning, and I'll explain that a little bit more at the end. If no one is here to listen to this, you could just tell me now, and I won't bother explaining that, because it's kind of boring. Or if council would like me, I can explain it again to them, because they've heard it a few times now. So, again, my first time using this TV, I should have gone a wider perspective on this. Now I know. The land that we're talking about is huge. It's this lot is part of it, and then it's a massive area over here. But we're only actually talking about a very small part of that. Approximately there. The idea, as Stephanie noted, is that this is taking a look at our market and trying out this concept to see how it works. But that's not to say that further on there won't be more development going down in, almost reaching in behind Acadia Park. There's geotechnical testing going on to see where in that area is sound footing for homes. And so this could be the start of several phases of development. And the area right now where you go in to start walking on the trail there, that could become an extension of Queen. And so it will go down into this new development. But this is basically phase one, or, well, hopefully it's phase one. Let's just leave it at that. Stephanie's already showed these, so I won't belabor them. It gives us a sense of the different styles with really nice colors. Are we really going to get these nice bright colors? Whenever a proposal comes to the town, we have to take a look at our municipal planning strategy and our land use bylaw to see if there's a fit between the zone that's on the land and what's being proposed. In this case, it's an R2 zone. So an R2 zone by nature, like just the most basic as of right development in the R2 zone is some sort of a 2-unit. So it could be in the style of a duplex or a semi-detached, or a home with an apartment. Additionally, you could also do secondary suites or backyard suites. Through site plan approval, which is a different planning tool, we can do more. We can do up to 4 units on a lot. The minimum lot size, however, is 50 feet. The lots being proposed are more like 35 feet in frontage, and so this doesn't work. We can't use this tool, which leaves us with the development agreement as the tool that we can use. And in particular, there's a policy that is about innovative housing proposals. So in this instance, we're looking at a proposal that involves smaller than typical lots, at least today. There's lots of small lots in this town, as I'm sure you're all aware. But we're going back to that in a sense, because we're going back to more compact development, not only because people don't necessarily need a giant home, but also because, frankly, the cost of construction right now is mind-boggling. And so the only way we can approach affordability is by going smaller and using less land. I'm going to just touch on these really quickly. There's a lot of policy sections that we have to take a look at and that are embedded in the proposal and what we have drafted as a development agreement. So with respect to the innovative housing and site design, this is more on the site design side of things. So we look at things like recreation space, open space, the impact of traffic. We look at architectural detailing and designs, landscaping, the size of lots. This does allow down to 34 feet of frontage. And proposals that satisfy the criteria that gets reviewed for all development agreements, land use bylaw amendments, and site plan approvals, which is this guy. This one goes into a whole bunch more things that we have to take a look at. So is it consistent with all of the MPS policies and all of the land use bylaw provisions that would apply? Do we have the capacity to absorb it? Is there going to impose new capital costs on the town? Do we have to put in new sewer, new water? In this instance, for example, on that case, the water and sewer are already in place. So no, we don't. There aren't additional costs to the town in that respect. Infill development is by far the preferred development for us because we have a lot of roads, a lot of water, a lot of sewer, and we have a lot of room to grow internally on those existing serviced areas. That makes projects like this appealing. You look at street networks, you look at proximity to recreation and other community facilities, kind of batten it out of the park with respect to that in this one. and also compatibility with adjacent uses. Now, this site, as you saw in the overview, is kind of far away from the remainder of residential going down Drummond, and apart from that, it's kind of a park setting and a fire department. So hard to know what we're supposed to be compatible with, but I think it's not going to present any challenges. There's a section here where we look at environmental impacts of the project. It talks about steepness of grades, the kind of soil you have, is there any impact with respect to stormwater management, if you have to do any buffering, impact to waterways, and any natural features or historical buildings. This is the safety issue that was brought up. So looking east, we see that you can't quite see around the corner there, and it's hard to see in this photo, but exactly where I put that arrow, you could actually see through the shrubbery and you could see cars approaching. And so by clearing this area and knocking down that knoll, we go from 100 to 200 feet of site stopping distance. That gives a safe distance for people to stop if someone is pulling out of the driveway. Here's the other one. This slipway doesn't really serve any necessary purpose, but what it does do is funnel cars directly into the area where people would be exiting their driveways. And so since there isn't really a need to have it here, it does make good sense to remove it such that there'll be increased safety there. It also makes clearer the future potential of crossing over on Queen into future phases of that project. Okay, just briefly on development agreements. They run with the land. So once they're approved, they get registered against your deed, and any new buyers would actually inherit the requirements that are contained in that agreement. It's like an encumbrance on the land, kind of like a right-of-way. Over time, if the development is finalized, council can choose to discharge the agreement, if that makes sense. In some cases it does, in some it doesn't. And once it's finished, it doesn't make that much of a difference if you do keep it in most cases. Things that are within a development agreement talk about the use of lands. Stephanie mentioned that this is going to be set up so that a number of R2 uses could happen there. It may not be their intention, but it gives them lots of flexibility to pivot. If the market is saying they want this instead of this, they will have the latitude within that agreement to do those kinds of uses. And they would be uses that would also be permitted on the other residential lots in this area because it's all zoned at R2 around us. There's also within the agreement sections concerning the environmental aspects, buffering, things around who does what with respect to infrastructure, any professional engineering reports that have to be submitted such that the town understands that things are being done to the standard that it has to be done for all concerned. There's an interesting section called the non-substantive section. In the non-substantive sections, you basically show a little humility and say, we don't really know the future. We know that some things are probably going to wiggle around a little bit, and we need to give ourselves permission to consider those. It can't all be locked down. And Stephanie's actually raised with me one area where the wording was a bit too black and white that I'm going to ask council's consideration on. We're going to want to put a little wiggle room in this one. It's about the exact layout of the sidewalk, and I'll get to that in a second. We do have a couple of clauses in here that speak to this, and I'll show you those in a moment. Then it talks about who does the registration, what the timing of construction is, and enforcement, because there is a section here that says if things aren't being done the way they are supposed to be done according to the agreement, council has various rights in terms of enforcement. They can go in and do them themselves and bill it back. They can issue orders requiring that things be done the way they're intended to be done and that everyone has agreed that they be done, and that sort of thing. So these are rather long documents. If anyone's interested, I can jump into details. I'm expecting that won't be the case. So in the substantive clauses are things like talking about the use, which we've already talked about a little bit. It's the same kinds of uses that you can do in an R2 zone with the additional ability to put in pre-manufactured houses. Right now, there's a lot of language in this document that makes it difficult to do that. And we won't get into the reasons for that, but it is buried all through it, or riddled all through it. And so one of the uses that is specifically allowed by this DEA is to use pre-manufactured housing. Stephanie has already mentioned that we wanted this to not be kind of a row of everything being the same. And so there are kind of somewhat challenging requirements around making sure there is variability in the 10 units, the 10 buildings. Talked about who's going to do what with respect to servicing, where they're going to pick up water, where they're going to pick up sewer, how they're going to deal with runoff on the property. We have in the planning strategy a section that talks about really being careful about runoff and doing our best not to, first of all, impact others, but beyond that, being a lot more responsible about how we deal with stormwater. As I'm sure you've all seen, intense rain events are getting more and more frequent, and that results in downstream flooding. And so we have to be better shepherds of the environment with respect to how we manage the water that we create, or rather cause to run off faster by introducing more hard surface by doing development. Access design, it was a discussion around, are we going to have some sort of rear driveway, or will people enter onto Drummond in the same fashion that they do lower on? That's what caused us to have the discussion about safety exiting properties with respect to the both ends of the proposed development. Active living is something that the town is studying and striving to increase, and it's basically helping people live their lives with less reliance on cars and encouraging people to walk downtown, to jump on their bike and go downtown. And so to the extent that we can make that easy for people, it encourages it. This is a section of the Trans-Canada Trail. It actually runs up from Stellarton and crosses through a bit of this property before carrying on down into the back of Acadia Park. So we're realigning that section so that it will come along the front of the drive, the houses, and then it will turn down the driveway that leads to the parking area. And I've already talked about environmental considerations, but what I didn't mention is we are looking at some things that would make the units more affordable and environmental going forward. So staff asked Stephanie's company to take a look at having the homes be solar ready, having them be HRV ready, heat recovery ventilators, or sorry, heat pumps. They won't necessarily have heat recovery ventilators, and also possibly EV chargers, because going forward in time, more and more people will have EVs. We ran into some challenges with respect to the solar end of things, that actually on these particular kinds of buildings is more expensive than one would anticipate. Where did we land on that? Is that a... You are able to do it?
2,000 per unit, but we are able to do it.
So that means you will do it?
We can agree to do it.
Excellent. The only one then that was tricky was pre-wiring for EVs.
The upgrade for the solar covers the EV upgrade as well. So
Also.
that's an
Yeah, be the same.
Okay. And the other one, the heat pump ready, was a given. That was going to be done.
The heat pump roughing is
Right.
already incorporated, yeah.
So these obviously lend towards sustainability, but over the course of time make the homes more affordable to live in. Because if you're getting your energy from the sun, you're not getting it from the power company. DAs also talk about who's going to pay for what. For instance, it's the responsibility of the developer to pay for the cost, for example, of registering the documents. They will be doing the engineering studies that are required for different aspects. Those costs do fall to the developer. And then the wiggle room clauses that I talked about. So there is, if there is an R2 use that may not be a great fit, there is a provision that allows the development officer to consider it if it's viewed to be complementary with the development and the spirit and intent of the document. Some movement in landscaping provisions, some in parking provisions, and then also start and finish completion. This was interesting, the start and finish one. There was more time asked for than I anticipated, but I think we landed in an okay place. That's what I have. Anyone want more? Should I go into more detail anywhere?
Council, anyone? Question?
Your Worship, I want to see this proceed as quickly as possible. It's great for Westville, but from the very beginning, when we were talking many more units than 10, there has always been an advocacy for a mix of units, and I still feel very, very, very strongly about that. Now, I know the 4 that are going ahead are all going to be the same, but this is phase 1, and if phase 2 comes along, and we're trying to get units that are relatively inexpensive, but still very expensive, right? My fear is that we could have 50 or 100 of almost lookalikes with different step designs and what have you, right? I would like to see these 10 have some variance. I feel very, very strongly about that. Don't want to hold anything up. And I know those 4 have to proceed. But can you give us some kind of assurance that there will be a mix down the road? Because that's so important, Stephanie. And I've articulated that at PAC, and I think prior to that, initially.
For your worship, I can certainly guarantee that as we move on to develop the rest of the land, we'd be happy to write into the development agreement that there is a mix of units throughout that area, because having seen how all of our communities have built out throughout, Clayton has developed 70 homes for 70,000 residents so far, is I think our number, and we don't see a market for the same thing over and over and over again. We always want to accommodate a variety of needs and a variety of family styles and individuals and large families. So for the larger development, we'll absolutely have that diversity, and we'd be happy to regulate that. With regards to the 10 that we're developing now, I know from our company's standpoint, there is a very strong desire to stick with most of them being this half modular style, but I have been in communication with the province at this time about the secondary suite option that I think was discussed at the last PUC, and she is still looking into whether an individual that we would work with would be able to receive the funding for the $40,000 of
Right.
forgivable loans,
Right.
and then you would see like a longer unit style there. And we did, as I discussed, we did provide the opportunity to do the semi-detached units, but those semi-detached units aren't something we've ever done before. So it's very difficult for me to commit the company to doing something we haven't developed yet. We don't have plans for it. That one is quite challenging. I think I can commit to potentially doing one of a different length, but I'm not sure about the different width at this time.
The Shaw Group is such a reputable company, and we have great faith in the future dealings with the company. But does it not make sense, I mean, to have the real showcase units that are on Drummond Road with all the traffic going by and having a nice mix in behind somewhere? That doesn't make sense to me. I know you're trying to do it as cheaply as possible, but I think the mix should be on Drummond Road. It just makes showcase sense to do that. And I hope you take that message back. Don't want to delay anything. I'm excited about this. Don't want the wrong impression going out there. But please give us some variety.
I will commit to taking that back to the team and absolutely pushing for diversity in those first 10 units. I think that we are testing these half mods elsewhere as well right now, and we haven't finished one yet. They're just being installed right now. So as we see what the market says, like I said, I think the market's going to tell us we want a little bit more of the larger style homes, and then I think that we'll be able to do it, is my gut feeling.
Make Westville your real showcase.
Your worship, would you like to open to questions from the floor?
I'll allow the council first to comment further if they wish.
Thank you, Your Worship. Again, very excited about the development. My biggest concern, which others had shared, was the packing out onto Drummond. But it's nice to see that we have some engineering involved now, and I think I'm satisfied if the engineering is approved by our traffic authority, then I'm good with that. I mean, it would have been nicer to see a single street like and with driveways going through the back, but I understand the cost of putting a street in compared to 10 driveways or 4 driveways to start. So I'm satisfied with the traffic as long as the traffic authority approves it.
Your worship, I echo that as well. That was my biggest concern, was in and around the both ends of the projects where it comes to the traffic and the sight lines. So I'm very pleased to hear WSP was involved with that as of today. And I assume, as was mentioned, that it'll be submitted to the traffic authority and or our engineering folks that we're utilizing for stuff, just to vet it to ensure that I's dotted, T's crossed. So no, I'm very pleased with that today.
I think when we get to our council meeting and we actually deal with a motion to accept or reject or revise the DA on this project, some of that stuff will be dealt with, hopefully, the wording and so on, to make it clear what we're approving or not approving. Is there anything else council has?
Stephanie, I'd just comment again, super excited. I love the idea. I love how you've agreed in the color formatting, like just every third, fourth house being a separate color. I like the design layup of the different frontages and staggering of the house, so it's not just little row houses kind of all in a row. And yeah, I want more people coming and developing and doing these incredible things in Westville. So I really hope that this is a successful project and we can move forward as soon as possible. And I think we're all aware of our housing crisis situation and that in our town there's currently 0 vacancy. I think there's a lot of people that are looking, and I think that you will be pleased with the market. So that's my hope anyways, that you will be pleased with the market and what we have to offer here for those people that are wanting to either just move within Westville or make Westville their new home. And yeah, I think this is exciting. It's the start of something that could be very, very large and a wonderful asset to our town. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Yeah, I think it may have been beneficial in hindsight to have the grander plan, like for what was thought about when Shaw first approached the town with regard to developing the area over there. I know that that's not what we're dealing with tonight. Don't get me wrong. We don't want to skew the water too much, but I think for people that aren't aware, it would give a little more enlightenment to what is to come, hopefully, with this being a phase 1 to start with. We got to start somewhere, and I know it will be successful, I believe, and move on to the next phases of the development, because the potential, as we all know, across the road is out of sight. I mean, most towns would be like losing sleep overnight with having that much potential and not being able to capitalize it. So this will be the beginning, I think. So I am going to open it up to anyone from the audience that wishes to speak on the public hearing matter, and I'm just going to ask you to come forward. It's mainly because we are streaming live, and the only way we can pick it up is by coming to the podium here, if you don't mind.
Hi, Dave Dignan, North Main Street. To Stephanie, I was just wondering, I'm kind of along the same line as Councillor McKinnon, that I know that you're wanting to get in here and get started, and it's great. But it almost looks to me like I've got a row of trailers there. And I'm wondering, is it the industry standard, the 16 by 36? Is there not a possibility of a 16 by 36 and then maybe a 20 by 30? That 4 feet extra on the frontage and that, it makes a world of difference in a home. It doesn't look so much like a trailer. And so your square footage is a little bit more, but not a lot. And I'm just wondering if that's can be built, or if it's not, it's just like the 16 by 36 is it.
If you don't mind, thank you.
Great question. So the reason for the dimension is due to the truck. The truck can carry a 16-foot wide unit. So when you're building modular, you're doing, and everything in the plant is also set up for 16 feet wide and 74 feet long. So you're doing, sometimes we do 60 feet long and 16 feet wide, but you're either going to double width. So what's double 16? 32. Am I doing the math right? 32. You're either 16 or you're 32. And once you're 32, you're dealing with a whole new level of like tilting up the roofs, and it is a higher cost point, but we are looking at doing the 32-foot wide units. We're still exploring and experimenting. This is sort of a new, even though Prestige has been around since 1973, we're still experimenting with all kinds of new ways to do modular, because Prestige's bread and butter has always been the 16 by 74. So we're in kind of early days of how can we make it more cost efficient and cost effective to do these modular buildings that involve multiple units. And we are looking at, for example, fourplexes and putting them together. So it's a 32 by 74 foot fourplex where you've got essentially four of those units put together in one building. So we're exploring a lot of those options for sure. And these ones are sort of they are our test. That's why we're starting with them. So in the broader scheme of things, like if we do a phase 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, we're absolutely you're going to be seeing those come to town for sure.
Thank you, Stephanie. I think the distinction, Stephanie, would be that these are mini-home, modular mini-home production, as opposed to a modular home, which can come in several pieces and be put together on site, so you can get that different width and so on that David's talking about. So these are the construction here is a mini-home design construction at Prestige, as I understand it, and you're talking about a 16 by 72, I guess, basically, if you're going to divide it in two. You get to 16 by 36, if my math is correct, right? So that's sort of the thing. The thing that I think we emphasized, and I think you mentioned, that the setbacks are going to be different on these first four. I go back to the when the plan was, the A, B, C, D, and not duplicating, that there would not be two of the same together. And that's going to be the case here. I just want to be assured of that.
That's in the DA.
Yeah, yes, that's in the DA. Okay. Anyone else from the public wish to address the public hearing?
Linda White, Duggan Avenue. Just on the same subject, is it not possible to break it up and turn one the opposite way and have the front on the long side instead of the short, just to variate the look of it from being long, skinny homes that everybody's going to think they got a trailer court?
Lot width.
When we turn them sideways, what that does, and this comes back to the consideration I mentioned about infrastructure costs. So when we turn one of these homes sideways on the lot, we double or triple the lot width, and then the pipes that we put in for the sewer and the water are double and triple in length, and they're double and triple the cost. So it's a very linear increase in cost when we widen the lots. The as of right lot width, I think, is 50 feet, yeah. So we do still have the option of doing that as of right, adjacent this development. But in terms of keeping these units, like our goal is to be far below $200,000 per unit, like quite a bit below that. And as soon as we turn it sideways, we can't achieve that anymore. So again, it is just the 10 that we're starting with And it isn't expected that we would create an entire village of these. So I really don't want to give that impression.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public who wish to address the hearing?
It occurs to me on this point, and I don't know if anyone's explored this yet, Stephanie, but it might be fun to take a look at taking a pergola and putting it on the side instead of the front, because that would totally give a different sense of the width dimension. And then it would just, you would probably move the door to the side instead of, and have another window in place of that door. Just swap a door and a window and come off the
This
side.
development agreement requires the door to be on the front right now.
Right.
There's
Right.
wiggle room, isn't there wiggle room in that?
Right.
We have that little
Right.
thing here, yes.
See, that's the thing
About
about
where the door
development.
faces. Unfortunately. Need to change that at some point.
So I think what council needs to think about in this is, one, we do have a requirement to add some wiggle room to the sidewalk, only because how it joins back into the Trans-Canada Trail, which has no grass verge between the curb and the sidewalk, we would
Right.
actually have to approach that. And there's also an area with a fire hydrant. And the current wording is fairly black and white. So I need to introduce a clause like, do it this way or subject to approval of the town engineer. So the town engineer would be able to look at it and say, yes, you can, converge on the trail and you can go around that, and it can be more or less than a meter, something along those lines. So that gives us that option, or we can introduce it as a non-substantive clause. So by written request to the development officer, Shaw could say, look, in this area, we're challenged to completely cleave to this requirement. We need some ability to adjust to the circumstances. So that's one thing that I think we need to have as a clause that gets introduced. Another one is whether or not, now when I asked Stephanie about whether or not the solar and the EV ready was possible, they said it was, but it's not in the agreement requiring it. So there's a $2,000 cost to doing that. That's what they said.
So that would be the choice of the buyer, I'm guessing, or an upgrade that the buyer could ask for?
We are actually going to be pre-building the lots, these homes, before we have buyers. So
Yeah.
we're either going to put them in or we aren't. And
These homes will be sold before you deliver them there.
we hope so.
So if we don't have that in the DA, they probably won't be done. Is that correct?
I think potentially we would explore doing a mix still and see if there is enough for it. Again, where this is a test, I think that would be an interesting test for us to do. If it's required, then we end up doing all of them and there's no test, so.
Right.
I guess
So I know this, I just found out that the cost of doing this just this evening, like 20 minutes ago. I would propose that we ask that 50% of the units have that as a feature, and then that would be a good test. So that would be an alteration to the DA too. So there'd be two alterations to the DA. One is 50% of the units are solar and EV ready. And then the other one is simply the introduction of either a non-substantive clause about being able to vary the kind of the design parametrics of the sidewalk a little bit, or have the engineer approve any kind of a design that comes forward. I think that makes more sense because the engineer is going to be looking at it anyway.
So for this portion of the meeting, which is the public hearing, if there's no other questions or comments, we can move on. The actual decision from council with regard to the development agreement, of course, will be coming up shortly in our actual meeting. We can't, there's no motions to be made at a public hearing.
Correct.
It's under our council meeting. It just so happens that we're having them back-to-back this evening, is the way it's working. So if that's okay with everyone, we'll move on to the second item under the public hearing portion of our meetings.
in council, we can talk more about
Absolutely.
the proposed changes.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
That's my, yeah, that's what I guess I wasn't very clear, but what I was doing, I was just going to stop Sean from having to repeat himself when we get to the portion of the meeting where we're actually looking at
Yeah.
approving or whatever with the development agreement, because that's when we'll deal with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the next matter is more of a bylaw adoption with regard to this, to create a new development, a new zone, basically within town. Go.
So you'll perhaps be relieved to find out that I don't really have a presentation for this. I'm just going to walk you through something you've already read, but
Wonderful.
members of the public may not have had a chance to see this, although it is on the website. The town is looking at adopting a comprehensive development district amendment or strategy and policy. And those words all mean something, comprehensive development district. So district means an area. Comprehensive means you're looking at something comprehensively, not just sort of in a narrow, siloed kind of way. And it's for purposes of development. We still are operating with a secondary planning strategy until we adopt the current LUB and planning strategy as our own, which we will hopefully do within the next few months. We're still operating as part of the larger group of towns that has the intermunicipal planning strategy and the common land use bylaw. So this policy, for the time being, will park in our own secondary strategy, which is the one that is specific to Westville. Each town has their own secondary strategy. And the land use bylaw provisions, which all the towns use an identical land use bylaw, they will just simply reference Westville only when it comes to things relating to this. So the other towns wouldn't look at it. So that I don't forget some of the things I wanted to mention, I just put some blue highlights on them. This is the preamble. Policy generally has preamble, and that kind of helps the public and all of us working with the policy to understand what the original intent was. If that is missing, you don't really necessarily know why a policy was written. And in this instance, we know that Westville has a lot of really large pieces of land, like many, many, many acres of land. I could do a Donald Trump impersonation and tell you how many acres of land some of these are, but I won't. We don't want these just to be piecemealed out in little bits and pieces, because then they're not going to work very well together. Hopefully, we can find a better way to do that, and we believe that through the comprehensive development district approach, we can do that, because we're going to look at big chunks of land and say, okay, here's where we are. Here's the context of the community of Westville today, and here's what we need, and here's what we're hoping for. How do we achieve that on this piece of land or on this piece of land? The way these will work, however, is that nothing will be pre-zoned. Nothing will be coming out of the gate already zoned as a comprehensive development district. That would happen through an application subsequent to this policy being adopted. So, presuming we adopt this, down the road, someone can come say, look, I've got a big piece of land. It's 7 acres. I would like to do one of these CDDs so that we can do a whole bunch of stuff on that land. Here's my ideas. We would gauge those ideas against the policy that we've adopted. And then if that all made sense, we would go through and use, again, a development agreement. And I'll get to why in a moment. It's a bit of a hefty tool, but we're talking about big pieces of land that will occupy large portions of the community. So it seems to us, at least, to make sense to do it that way. We're hoping on these that we'll create diverse communities, sustainable communities. We want complementary uses. These communities could have parkland on them. They could have institutional uses. They could have some neighborhood commercial uses on them. They could also have a mix of housing types, because all of us need different things in housing. And so why do we have to be only one kind of housing here and another kind of housing way over here? Why couldn't we actually live closer together with others who are, friends and community members? These, through the development agreements, allow us to be more innovative. We're not as pinned down to the kind of standards we are for as-of-right development. As-of-right development is quite black and white. It says you do this, you get a permit. In this, there can be some negotiations. Like, here's what we're hoping to achieve. We feel that we can meet the town needs in terms of servicing, for instance, but doing it in a different way so as to better achieve what the potential of this lot offers. The complementary use part, I think, will vary depending on what the needs are of the community at the time that these are being negotiated, and who is coming to the table. They may have a group of people interested in a certain piece of land. One portion of that group may want to do a residential development, another may want to do a small institutional development. So they could come collectively to the town and negotiate one of these with the town. And the public would get to see it in effect twice. There would be the rezoning application, and that may live or die. There would also be the development agreement part. The development agreement part can only be approved once the rezoning is approved and gone through the appeal period. The beauty of the development agreement, however, is that the community would get to see more or less exactly what is going to happen. They're going to know what's going to happen in their neighborhood, because these will, in many cases, have people living around them. And so they'll be able to come to meetings like this and get an understanding of the nature of the changes that will be happening in their neighborhood. So in some cases, these parcels of land may have some existing development on them. Those will get to continue. They're not going to be caused to go away or anything, but they may end up being what's called legal nonconforming. So legal nonconforming uses get to stay, and there are provisions allowing them to expand, to change their nature, to change their use, but they're different than the provisions for strict as of right development, but that's built into this policy. And one of the things that sometimes comprehensive development policies do is allow new as of right development on whatever the previous zone was, but that may not go well, because it may be that one little thing can cause the entire master plan to go sideways. And so it really does make sense to have these all wrapped up within one master plan. So in here are just the actual policies that would get adopted. One is an enabling policy. This next one's really important. It allows the town itself to actually come up with an overall set of objectives for a piece of land. So working with a developer, the town could say, look, this piece of land, because of where it is and what we have in terms of services and what we're experiencing in our community right now according to need, really lends itself to something like this. Are you interested? And the town can actually set out in that master planning process, as it just talking about context-specific priorities. It can talk about road and active transportation. It can talk about the mix of land uses. We'd like more, I don't know, 3-bedroom units to accommodate families. We'd like more multiple unit developments, because that will bring the pricing down. We want this area to have a lower density because it's beside a lower density neighborhood, and you can do higher density here because it's wrapped in the new lower density area. There can be performance standards that we bring to bear. There can be alternative road requirements or infrastructure requirements to help bring costs down, but they wouldn't fall under our normal standard set of specifications, which were written a long time ago and with a different set of objectives. We can introduce climate change mitigation and adaptation provisions if we see fit. We already spoke about some of those tonight. Just reducing hard surface is one of those mitigation processes or provisions. And so this next bit talks about the kinds of things that we would be assessing the project against. So sustainability, affordability, the mix of uses, transitioning from existing neighborhoods into denser parts of new neighborhoods, if there are any. How does transportation work? How are we relating to, how easy is it to get on a sidewalk? How safe is it for a senior or a child to walk through the neighborhood? How do we connect to the bus system? How do we actually support the bus system? And we can look at, okay, you're introducing, 70% hard surface in this area. How are we going to deal with the impact of stormwater management? So that's something that we'll be looking at. And also, I already mentioned alternative development standards and the impact on municipal infrastructure and how we manage that. Will my voice go hoarse before I finish? I don't think so. I'll make it. Density and built form. Don't need to speak to that. So rezoning. How do you get to the CDD zone? So you go through a rezoning process. A lot of our policies don't actually tell you how or what council needs to consider in moving to a new zone. This is going to have some provisions. So for instance, we're saying we're not going to look at one of these that's less than a hectare in size. So that's about 2.2 acres. Like around 100,000 square feet. Because it's a tool made for big pieces of land. It's not made for smaller parcels of land. We really don't want to be running new services. That costs the town, the municipality money. We want to the extent possible, work with our existing services to keep the expenditure on the part of the municipality as low as possible and to gain the best, essentially, return on investment. We've spent the money putting these services in. Now we're going to get a return on that investment as development happens on these infill sites. And to the extent that we can cluster these around the core of the community, we're achieving all sorts of benefits. One I just mentioned is using existing infrastructure, but it also makes better use of whatever alternative transportation, like sidewalks, the ability to bike on new bike trails that we may put in, the ability to get to the bus service that we have operating, which hopefully will expand. It helps those. It also makes it easier for people, for example, who can't or choose not to drive to get into the downtown, to get their groceries, and those sorts of things. There's any number of benefits of clustering around the core. So that's one of the things that we'd like to encourage through this. And that's not to say that someone who doesn't hit all of these targets wouldn't be accepted. It's just suggesting that these are things that council will be considering in reviewing applications. There's provisions on discharge of a CDD. Basically, if there's a reason to do that, you would do so, but you'd have to put in place a new zone that would more or less manage what you've just created through the CDD. And that's it in terms of policy. On the land use bylaw end, it's pretty straightforward. It's simply that we're going to have the zone, and it's going to be limited to certain uses, which are basically things that happen in the comprehensive development district. And in terms of as of right, it's just existing uses. That would be the only one. And everything else happens through development agreement. So that is the proposal for a new policy and land use bylaw around comprehensive development districts.
And once again, this will be dealt with on our regular council meeting. We had the first reading previously. It'll be the second reading, and if it passes, then it'll become the policy. Any questions at this point from council?
Just to comment, Your Worship, a couple of things that I really like about this this new zone is the flexibility to allow future developers that want to come and will want to come to do business in Westville because it is easier. And the second thing is that we, as a council and as a community, have two chances to really look into it deeply with the zoning process as well as the DA.
Yeah.
So we have the flexibility with the and still maintaining that control. It's a good thing. Help us with our infilling and our increase our population density.
Yeah, and it should help with the thought that we have about communities within communities, basically, pocket communities, so-called, that we're hoping to see develop in some of these larger tracts of land that exist in town, so that they become a sort of a neighborhood unto a neighborhood, sort of thing. And we have some of that already in town. We have certain areas of town where people feel an affinity to each other, feel that they live in a separate part of town almost, although they're part of town. It's a pocket neighborhood without being called that, and we can create more of those under this policy, I believe. Anything else? Any other comments?
Your Worship, we've been a party to this all along, and I don't think we should belabor it as a council, but perhaps there are people out there that are seeing it for the first time that might want to have comments. Absolutely. But I think it's a wonderful step in the right direction.
Any This is a public hearing on this matter, so anybody from the public wish to address or ask questions or make comments, now's the time. Silence is indication that we're good to move. So with that, that'll bring us to the end of our public hearing session, and I will declare the meeting adjourned. And I'm now going to call the regular meeting of the Town Council to order.
Scott will have to,
Did you want to shut that off? and
no,
stuff here?
not off,
Oh, sorry.
but flipped over. Yeah.
Just off the screen.
Okay, so I'm going to call I think we're good technically. We're going to call the regular council meeting for the Town of Westville to order. And I'm going to begin by, once again, roll call, which Councillor Sarah McKinnon, Councillor Claire McKinnon, CAO Weirs, myself, Mayor Lenny White, Deputy Mayor Bernie Murphy, Councillor McGregor, and and Recording Secretary Reid. Is there any, sorry, before I do that, going to move on to indicate that we are once again meeting in Mi'kmaq, the ancestral unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. I want to emphasize that the reason that we're meeting in our council meeting at an unusual time, the third Monday and rather than the fourth Monday, is because next Monday, the 30th, is Truth and Reconciliation Day in Canada. And so I encourage people to make themselves aware of what that involves and actually have a look at the Truth and Reconciliation recommendations that came from hearings across the country for an extended period of time. And so I encourage people to do that and take some time on Monday next to do that and acquaint yourself with some of these matters. I also want to acknowledge the histories, legacies, and contributions of the African Nova Scotia people who have been here for over 400 years. Declaration of conflict of interest. Hearing and seeing none, move on to the approval of the agenda as circulated.
Your worship, I would move to accept the agenda as circulated.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Are you ready for the question?
Question?
Questions being called. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Minutes of the regular council meeting of August the 26th.
I'll move to approve the minutes from the regular council meeting of August 26th.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Are you ready for the question?
Question?
Questions being called. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Moving on then to committee reports. General government, first one being my mayor's report for the month since our last council meeting. It was circulated, I know. So I don't think there's anything, just bear with me till I have a look and make sure there's nothing that I wanted to add to that. The only thing I'd add to that, folks, is that this is the last council meeting of the term for this particular council. There's apparently an election coming up in the next few weeks. So this is the last meeting of the council, and I want to, just personally, as mayor, I want to thank members of council for the past 4 years of contribution and dedication to the town in all matters related to council matters. And I also include in that, of course, our departed colleagues, Betty Jean Sutherland and Megan Bragg. This council has gone through a very unusual set of circumstances. That there aren't very many councils, I don't think, in this province or beyond that lost suddenly 2 members of council through sudden passing. So that was one thing. The other thing that this council members dealt with was COVID, of course. We saw our way through COVID. We saw our way through an unprecedented hurricane, Fiona, which had challenges, and we saw our way also through one of the most major snowstorms that most of us can recall in recent memory, just this past winter. So there were some challenges, and I want to thank members of council for their perseverance and working hard on behalf of citizens during the past 4 years. And I wish you well in the election, as I do wish the contenders who have come forward for mayor, Laurie Peters, and for council as well, Helen Dunn and Danielle Fraser. And I wish everyone well. I know Councillor Clary McKinnon is retiring, so I'll have a little bit more to say about that before the night is over, I believe. But at this point, I just want to add that to my report and express my gratitude to you all. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on then to Deputy Mayor Murphy.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to echo on your point about the last 4 years, well, I guess it's a little bit over 3 for me. Unfortunate circumstances, but I'm happy to see the progress that we've made in the last 3 years. Mostly stemming from ideas and things that we've been trying to push since a long time, since 2012, and we've come a long way. We may not have always had the same point of view, but I think that's what makes our decisions that much stronger. I think everyone here is, I'm confident in saying that they have the best intentions for the town at heart, and I'm really proud to be a part of this council for the last 3.5 years, and I thank you for your guys' patience and your cooperation. And of course the support and of the people of Westville and the strong community ties and sense of community spirit that I know I've said that quite a few times, but it's just the biggest thing about what I love about this community is this sense of community spirit. Yeah, so that's that. So short month September because we're having an early meeting, but still quite busy. Attended the Glenhaven board meeting. We passed the 24-25 budget. Still very impressed with the administrative structure they have over there. They're doing making leaps and bounds. I think they're setting themselves up really well for their new building when they go into it. Had the first SAC at Walter Duggan School of the year. The newer principal at Walter Duggan named Guy O'Coin. Very smart, very personable, easily approachable individual. I've known Guy for other SACs at the high school, so but great guy. A little bit of information on the school over there to give you an idea. Most classes are at or equal to max capacity. But good news is they're getting more staff, and they're going to be able to juggle their numbers, so they're going to be able to get everyone at least underneath the cap. But very, very busy school. A lot of students over there. September is pretty much drill month. Guy's having a busy month, so they're doing a lot of the fire drills. But I also noticed that they're also doing shelter in place and shelter off-site drills. Unfortunate that we have to have those, but at the same time, it's good to know that in case the inexplicable happens, at least they're prepared for it. Attended the online candidate training session, attended the police commission, the planning commission, which was very busy this month, has been for the last few months. And that is my report, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Deputy Murphy. I'm interested, I'm happy to hear that not happy to hear, that's probably the wrong way to put this, but I'm pleased to know that the school is undertaking those types of exercises. We live in a climate that we can't be complacent. We can't say never happened here. Every time one of these unfortunate things happen, mostly south of the border, the common comment from the mayor or councillor or whoever is never thought it would happen here. Like, it's hard to believe that it happened here. And I know that at our neighborhood watch meeting, I asked Deputy Mayor if that were the case at the school here, and so I'm happy to hear that that is the case, that they do those drills. It's unfortunate. It's got to be traumatic for the kids to have to go through that, but it's the right thing to do. Councillor Clary McKinnon.
Your Worship, this is my last council meeting, and I am going to miss it. I'm leaving a council that I believe has worked very closely together. We may be from different political backgrounds, some of us, and I think we've always gotten along. I remember a financial person being here one time being very impressed with us that we made a number of decisions in very short order, and she said, I'm amazed that this council has, this and other councils would have taken hours, and sometimes we do take longer, but on various things. But grew up in Westville, and Westville was always home, but I lived elsewhere, was away for a number of years, and served on other councils, and I don't think any council that I served on, and 8 years in the legislature as well, I don't think I've found a group that came to conclusion so amiably. So I just want to get that out there. I could go out with a lot of commentary, but tonight's going to be a relatively long night, and I just want to say that serving on about 8 committees, Planning Advisory Committee, when you come home from a Planning Advisory Committee meeting and all of the items, my wife Mary Kay always says, what happened at Planning Advisory Committee, because she's always interested in what's going on in the town. And I just said to her the other night, Mary Kay, there's so many things happening. And I put down all these pages in front of her, and that's the way it's been the last while. And the Asset Management Committee is one that I think is just amazing, because people don't realize that there are tens of millions of dollars of pipes and so on running under all these streets in the town of Westville. We have a huge infrastructure, and some of it is not in the best of shape, but it's being looked at, and being looked at aggressively. And the fire department, certainly I have, that's a committee that I enjoy being on, because the fire department just does so much in this town, and we can never express more gratitude to the fire department than is deserved. And I think one of the away from town committees that I will miss most is the Riverview Home Corporation, because for a long time I was president of a volunteer association associated with the corporation. And the corporation is looking at some good things in Westville, including perhaps the building of some housing for residents that could cost over $2 million. And that's something, there's a meeting tomorrow that I'm going to. I serve on the finance committee of the corporation and also on the corporation board. And both are meeting tomorrow, and perhaps there will be some more moves in that direction. So rather than go out with a ramble longer than that, I will go out with a whisper and say thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor McGregor.
Thank you, Your Worship. One of the benefits of going near the end is you can echo the sentiments of others, but something struck me that Councillor McKinnon said, which holds true here. You know, there were 7 different members on this council, and like you said, we've all come from diverse political backgrounds and beliefs, and I know that we truly were able to leave our party politics at the door here, and for 4 years we've made, you know, the best decisions for the residents of Westville based on that. And I think that's one of the reasons that this council has been so successful, was because we're able to leave our differences at the door. So, you know, I can't say any more. It's been such an honor and a pleasure to have been here for 4 years, made it 4 years, you know, and it's nice to know that folks here on this council are reoffering as well too. So it's great to see. And I do wish the best of luck to the other folks that are also out pounding the pavement as well for this next election, because it does take a special person to step up and want to do this role. So I'll leave the rest of the politicking to the pavement after the meeting. So that's all I really have in that space. But there was a few meetings this month. Again, it was a short month because we had to back this council meeting up a week. So there are meetings that haven't happened yet that would normally be reported on in this in the council meeting. But I attended all the regular meetings this month: Recreation, Planning and Advisory, Police Commission, and then, like I said, the rest of them have been they happen after this meeting. And then one quick little shout out to the fire department. I was able to attend the car show here. It was great to see all the folks come to town, and it was really nice to see that the weather held off and they were able to get it in. So, Your Worship, that's my report.
Thank you very much. Councillor Sarah McKinnon.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I attended all committee meetings and responded to lots of emails this month so far. Like other councillors have mentioned, I do have some other meetings coming up, including Northumberland Regional High Schools this Wednesday. There's been a lot of emails this month, some concerns about coyotes in the area. We're having an increase of that with our deer population, and also just questions about the election coming up and different road questions about street pavement and sidewalk paving completion dates. I am pleased to say that a lot of streets have been done so far, and we're happy to see the progress coming along in our community. For the last year, it has been an honor to serve the people of Westville on council. I do hope to continue to be able to do so in the future, but I very much enjoyed sitting beside my dad and learning from the best. So that's been wonderful. So that's my report for this month. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. C.O. Weirs.
Your Honor, nothing further to my report, the report included in the package.
Everyone received the CAO's report. I believe it was circulated. So if you have any questions, I'm sure he'd be more than happy to answer them for you. Let's move on then to Protective Services, the Chief of Police report, and the Fire Department. Could I ask that my eyes are
Turn the light on?
like, could we have a little light?
Certainly, yeah, we don't need that.
I don't think there'd be too much glare off the top of my head.
Your Worship, I would move that the Protective Services, including the Chief of Police report and the Fire Department report, be received as circulated.
I'll second that motion.
Moved and seconded. Are you ready for the question?
Question.
Questions called. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Moving on then to Recreation, Culture, and Leisure Services.
Your Worship, I'll move the Recreation, Culture, and Leisure Services report as presented.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Are you ready for the question?
Question.
Questions called. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carried. Transportation, Environmental Health Services, which includes the Water Report, Public Works Report, and the Solid Waste Report.
Your Worship, I would move to accept the Transportation Environmental Health Services reports, including Water, Public Works, and Solid Waste reports as circulated.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Are you ready for the question?
Question.
Questions called. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. Motion carried. Environmental Development, Fire Inspection, Planning and Development, and Planning and Development Report for August and September.
Your Worship, I'll move to motion that the Environmental Development, Fire Inspection, Planning and Development Report, Planning and Development Report of September and August be approved as circulated.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Are you ready for the question?
Question.
Questions called. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. That goes to the reference that Councillor Clary McKinnon was saying about the Planning Advisory Committee report from Planning. The length of both of those speak for themselves as far as what's going on in town, I believe. And it's not all there. There's things that haven't made it to the report yet.
That's right.
Moving on then quickly to new and unfinished business. The development agreement that we just had the public hearing on then for Drummond Road. I believe we do, before we'll allow, certainly there will be discussion, I'm sure. And I'll open it up to, we do have a resolution, I believe, that is we're prepared. And perhaps what I would suggest we do is we'll have the resolution read. I'll ask if someone can move and second it, and then we can have discussion on that particular motion.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yep.
I'll ask the CAO to read that resolution.
So, a resolution regarding the Shaw Clayton Drummond Road development. Whereas Pioneer Coal Limited and Shaw Clayton Developments have made application to enter into a development agreement for the development of for a development comprised of 10 small lots for residential development on the north side of Drummond Road, immediately to the east of the intersection with Queen Street. And whereas the proposed development complies with the intent of the municipal planning strategy to permit innovative residential housing within the residential designation through development agreement, and serves to increase the supply of attainable housing within Westville while also making use of existing municipal infrastructure. And whereas Municipal Traffic Authority has safety-related concerns regarding the proximity to a right turn ramp and sidewalk on the western side of the proposed development, and the adequacy of stopping site distance requirements on the eastern side end of the development. And whereas a public hearing has been held and no substantive concerns were raised by Westville residents, therefore be it resolved that Westville Town Council approve the development agreement conditional on the developer's traffic engineer satisfactorily addressing the concerns of the traffic authority prior to development and building permits being issued for the development.
I would move that, Your Worship.
Second it.
Seconded? Moved and seconded. Discussion on the motion. If you're ready for the question, I'll accept that as well.
I think there was some
sorry.
discussion regarding.
Just one moment at the mic.
You can go.
Thank you.
I've
Just for clarification.
on the question. I'll have something after Sean
Okay,
speaks.
perfect. I kind of thought so.
So, Stephanie pointed out that one of the things that was also hard and fast, that we may not want to be hard and fast, when I mentioned the idea of putting pergolas out to the side, which would increase the apparent width or a porch, rather than having them all on the front, she pointed out that the clause requires the doors to be on the front in all instances, except for on corner lots, which we have one of, kind of. It's not really a road yet, but we would treat it that way, I guess. So it occurred to me that it wouldn't hurt to add a wiggle room clause on design in the non-substantive section. That would allow us, because again, we don't have a crystal ball, we don't know everything that they're going to bring to us. And speaking to the concerns that several council members and some members of the public have brought up along the lines of not wanting it to all look the same, giving us a little bit of extra room to allow other designs that are serving the market, as long as they're in the spirit of the agreement. To me, that would make sense. So that would mean that we would actually have 3, not 2 variations on this or additional amendments on this. One being having the town engineers sign off on the sidewalk design. One being that 50% of the units would have be made solar ready, which would also be EV ready. And then this last one, that we include architectural design requirements in the non-substantive section, is something that the development officer can allow changes to, provided they're in the spirit of the agreement.
Your Worship, would you like an amendment to the
Yeah,
resolution as presented?
I think that that's what we will ask for, yes. So just to be clear, so there's 3 things. The engineering signing off on the
Sidewalk design,
sidewalk design you're adding, and the solar,
50% of the units would come
Readiness.
solar ready,
and the
which
third-
doesn't mean they've got panels on the roof, but they're
ready,
designed to
yeah.
accept them.
And the third one?
that there be a non-substantive clause introduced to allow the development officer, this goes without saying that it allows the development officer to do it, because that's how it's done, but
Right.
it allows the developer to come forward with a different idea that still achieves the intended effect, which is to provide variability along the front of the units.
Not outside the intended development.
Right.
Terms of the development agreement, the thrust of the agreement.
It's
Your
just
worship.
that the front doors don't all have to face forward. Is that the
Yeah,
only-
I don't know that I want to limit it to just front doors, because I just drew about 6 different variations on this while I was sitting here, and some of them wouldn't have met the requirements. It's easy enough to redesign things to create more interest, but that wouldn't fit within that narrow definition of windows and doors on the front.
I
Your
think what I'll
worship.
do, Councillor McKinnon, is allow for any further input, discussion, or comment. We do have a motion on the floor, so, you know, it's quite comfortable to proceed with some discussion prior to there being a motion for an amendment, which we will entertain, obviously.
Your worship,
If there
I would just like to say that the 3 wiggle room items that were mentioned make sense, and I would support them.
Same here, Your Worship. Just the options for the different layouts and stuff. I think that's great that we can open it up. But are we going to be dictating to the developer, or are they just options they can choose from inside the development agreement?
So in the way it's structured now, apart from the one corner lot, there would have to be the entrance door in the front. And that, unless they really wanted to do something different, they would just go with that. But if they did come forward with a new design that was deemed to be, you know, a good design in terms of meeting the intent of the agreement, the development officer would be able to say, yes, that's fine.
Yep. No, thank you.
And you have that authority now. I mean, you have that authority under a development agreement, correct, as a development officer?
Not unless you build it in.
Yeah.
I thought that was changed recently in the MGA.
In non-substantive requirements.
Okay, correct.
Well,
Councilor McGregor.
yeah, no, my only comment on that is I know, you know, and there's rationale as to why the door needs to face the road and things of that nature. I do know that we have turned down developments in very recent past, in the last couple of years, where folks wanted to kind of do something similar to that. So I'm just being mindful of, you know, that we've done that in the past, and maybe it's something we take away after this meeting to discuss broadly. Like if we're, you know, looking at potentially doing that in this development, then to me, there's really no rationale that would justify maybe not doing it elsewhere. Maybe we take a deeper look and just change it. That, you know, give where it makes sense to do that thing, you know, to do it differently. Because we know there was one in particular, somebody missed out on a property because they couldn't get the door where it needed to be there about 3 years ago, long before you were here, Sean. But that's the only thing, just the kind of I wouldn't call it a double standard, but like, you know, decisions are made in the past based on what the rules were, and if we're going to change them going forward, then that's maybe worth an even further discussion. Which again, I have no issue with it. The only comment about the solar is I just hope we're not putting any kind of undue burden on the developer for additional costs without any kind of solar studies to know if it's even feasible market over there for those units to actually have solar. I'm assuming probably. I don't know that there's too many areas that they can't. I know there's not a lot of vegetation and things of that, so I just would hate to see an additional cost to the developer that may not be justified, but that's all. I'm fine with the 3.
Can I ask Stephanie to comment on that?
Yes, I appreciate that comment, Councillor McGregor. We have explored the performance, and the 50% of the units is reasonable, I think, and it would
Perfect.
allow us to do a
Yeah.
test to see if there is market
Okay.
for it.
Awesome.
And if nobody wants it, if nobody uses it, then we know.
Yeah. Sorry, I guess just clarification, mine wasn't so much about the market itself wanting to purchase it, it was more about whether the
Dictating.
area is conducive to having solar in that area, right? So, I'm sure it is, it's wide open field, so there's not a lot of
It's sort
obstruction.
of east of south,
Yeah.
which is very good for solar.
I
And
figured.
also, new panel design is allowing panels to be mounted that can take even more oblique angles.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's what I thought. No, I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else anyone has? So if, Councillor McKinnon, you were thinking of moving an amendment, I believe.
Your worship, I would move that the three items outlined that I believe you have recorded be incorporated, and that would be an amendment.
So I'm sure that Recording Secretary Reed has them recorded. She's nodding yes, which is good. Better than my recording, I'm sure. So does everyone understand the motion to
Yes.
amend? If so, you ready for the question on the amendment?
Question.
Questions called on the amendment. All those in favor of the
Worship,
amendment say
did we-
aye.
Excuse me,
Aye.
Your Worship, did we have a seconder on that? On the,
Sorry.
Councillor Sarah
I will.
okay.
McKinnon, I guess. Sorry. Ready for the question? then?
Question?
Questions called. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carried. So now going back to the main motion as amended. Now we can deal with the motion as amended, the resolution that was read by the CAO with the addition of what the amendment adds to it. Are you ready for the question on that matter?
Your worship, when we talk about solar and 50%, it's just 50% of the 4 units that we're talking about right now, right? Or the total? Of the total?
Of the
Yeah.
10.
Okay, that's just a point of clarification. Thank you.
So it might not be any of the first 4. Right,
Possible.
which is, yeah.
Yep.
Possible.
Okay.
Any further discussion on the motion as amended? Hearing none, are you ready for the question?
Question?
Questions called. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. So onward and upward with the development agreement. I should ask, on behalf of council in the town now, Stephanie, do you have a timeline now that the development agreement has been approved under those conditions?
We have a target, and that would be to start civil works this fall and have the 4 units in for April. So early spring start for the actual unit drop off.
So early spring of 2025 for installation of the units, hopefully, if all these other conditions are met in that time frame. Correct? Excellent. Good to know. Good to know. Right. All right. Thank you very much, Stephanie, for attending. You're free to move about the cabin if you so desire now. You're more than welcome to stay, by the way.
Thank you very much. I have a long drive back to Halifax.
You do.
So that's
You do. I'm mindful of that.
great to be here, and thank you for your support and improvement.
Thank you very much. We look very much forward to continuing our relationship with Shaw and Prestige and these developments as they go forward.
So
Thank you.
the CDD, it's just, we're just,
Okay, then, folks,
Thanks, Stephanie.
moving
Safe
on then
travels.
to the 8B, the planning strategy and land use bylaw. This is a second reading for the comprehensive development district that Mr. Day outlined previously. Are you ready? How do you want to be ready for a motion on that? We have a resolution?
Resolution. Whereas Westville has numerous larger parcels of land that could be developed, and whereas council has an interest in ensuring that larger parcels of land are developed in a rational and comprehensive manner, and whereas a comprehensive development district policy gives town council an important and effective planning tool, and whereas Westville has read the CDD policy twice and held a public hearing where no substantive complaints or concerns were raised, therefore be it resolved that council approve the CDD policy as proposed.
So move, your worship.
I'll second
Seconder,
that.
moved
I'll
and
second
seconded?
that motion.
Discussion?
Question?
Ready for the question?
Question.
Questions
Question.
called? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion's carried. Someone, just for, as we end our last council meeting together, people ask me, does the mayor have a vote? The mayor has a vote. The mayor votes on every motion. And it might not be detected, but just to emphasize that on every motion, I vote. As well as calling for the vote, I vote as well with you all.
Yeah, your worship, before we go to the next item, I'm wondering if we would make a friendly amendment to our agenda. There's one more item that we had forgot to add in, or two. There's at least one that I'm aware of. So mine would be that we add Megan's Place on the agenda there as well. And then I think the CAO says there's another one. We might as well do them both at the same time.
Does everyone agree to that? It got missed in the beginning, but we'll just add it to 8F then. Megan's place would become 8F, I would suggest. And was there another one, Councilor McGregor?
Right now. I think I'm-
That was it?
sorry, I
Yeah.
miscounted.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was
so
the
we'll add
same
that.
one.
Thank you for that.
No, Recording Secretary Reed and I figured it out here that was missed.
Perfect. So let's, are you staying for the rezoning motion or request?
So
I'm sure
that's first reading?
it's, I guess it would be first reading.
I thought it was second, wasn't it?
It just got moved from PAC to here today, so it has to be first.
Yeah, it has to be first.
I think it was referred,
sorry,
it was referred from
here. Right,
PAC,
right.
so this will be
Yes,
first
this will be
reading
first
for that zoning request. So we don't need,
I can stay.
we don't need planning officer day.
No.
Is everyone happy? Everyone good?
We're good.
Let him be free to roam about the cabin as well. He's got a little bit of a drive as well, I know. So, long day.
Thank you all.
All right, thank
It's
you.
a long day for Mr. Day.
It is.
Take care.
Thank
Thank
all
you.
for coming out.
Safe travels.
Thank you. Okay, then moving on then to the Pictou County Partnership.
Thank you, Your Worship. I asked the, looks like a bit of a quarterly report from the Pictou County Partnership, just to give council an idea of what's going on with the partnership. Remember when we started, well, not when we started, but when we really started picking up steam, some of the things that we wanted in this council was to see what was going on, you know, and was there a measuring stick, you know? If you can't measure it, is it really happening? Well, I think Wade and his team have done an excellent job of doing the work, getting the funding, and being able to track it, and their ability to report back to council as we requested. So just want to make sure you guys knew that was in the package, and to commend the Pictou County Partnership on some excellent work in the community.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Deputy. And thank you for getting that package with all that information on the meeting of the partnership for council to have available to them. And yeah, you're absolutely right. The partnership has done has come a long way, and the reporting was one that everybody was concerned about. All 6 units, I think, to know what was going on. And I can remember dearly departed Megan Bragg, our great colleague, on several occasions saying, "Well, explain to us what you're doing. You know, if you want our support, tell us what you're doing." That was Megan's way. And I think that she'd be more than pleased. I thought about that several times when I'm looking at all the reporting that's come since and the change that's happened there with their transparency and reporting back to us. And you know, and thank you, Deputy, for being our representative on the partnership. And one thing, I was going to say small thing, it's not a small thing, but one thing that I think about is the fact that we would not be where we are with the proposed development at the school without the Pictou County Partnership, because we found the people that are involved in doing that, interested in doing that through the partnership. They referred them, the partnership referred them to us as
Excellent.
a possibility to look at doing something with the school. So just that alone, in my
Absolutely.
mind, makes it worthwhile for us to be a partner in the partnership.
Absolutely.
And there's been other things that they've referred to us that we just didn't have the ability to do or the right set of circumstances, but they keep doing that, and it's an excellent, so pleased with what they're doing there. Okay, moving on then to the rezoning request on Truro Road. CAO Weirs.
Yeah, I have a resolution for you, for council. Whereas Stones Superior Homes Limited have applied to rezone properties 24-1 and 24-2 of Plan 24-1632-01 on Old Truro Road from rural residential to residential 2-unit dwelling, R2. And whereas on September 18th, 2024, at its regular meeting, the Town of Westville's Planning Advisory Committee reviewed and recommended the Town Council approve the requested rezoning application for first reading at the September 23rd, 2024 council meeting. And whereas council has received no substantive complaints or concerns about the rezoning application, therefore, be it resolved that the application to rezone 24-1, 24-2 of Plan 1632-01, Old Trail Road be given first reading and be brought forward for a public hearing and second reading on November 25th, 2024.
I would make that motion, Your Worship.
Second it.
Moved and seconded. You ready for the question?
Question?
Before the question, those two duplexes are, the actual photos of those are very, very significant. I really like the design, and I think it's going to be quite an asset to the town. Just a simple thing like the roof that is over the actual doorways and the steps out front. The way that's designed, with the roof coming right out over the step, it's quite attractive, and it's not a hell of a lot more expensive to do. But it adds significantly to the actual design. They're really beautiful. I'm very impressed with them.
And, Your Worship, I think the important distinction to note here for this rezoning application, the current zoning, as of right, permits these units to already be built there exactly the same as what they've proposed without it being rezoned. The only difference being rezoning it to the R2 allows them to sell each unit individually to an individual owner, as opposed to the current zoning wouldn't allow that.
Right.
Yep.
Very good point. Are you ready for the question? I think we had a motion, did we? Secretary Reid?
It's on.
Yeah, you had a
Okay.
Question.
Moved
Question.
and seconded, ready for the question. Questions called, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carried. And I'm just going to point out that goes to Mr. Dignan's comment about the Drummond Street development, by the way, what's being proposed there is a Prestige home. It's the same company that's going to be doing the development over here, as far as building the units. And it'll show you that they're quite capable of building units that are, 68 by 26 feet wide, or in this case, breaking them into two and having 34 by 26 units. So, they down the road, some of the development that they're talking about over here in another phase or whatever would include, the modular type. That's what I was asking Stephanie, or pointing out when she was here. They're built in the factory. It's the same, pretty much the same construction that the mini homes are, but they're single wide, and the maximum that she said that they can build is 16 feet wide in the factory, and transport as well. With the modular building, they're able to do this. So these will be a very attractive look, as the Councillor McKinnon said, unit when they're in place down there on Old Aurora Road. All right. Where are we? Lost my
Picken
agenda.
Street Bridge.
Picken Street.
Sorry?
Picken Street.
Picken Street Bridge
Oh, there I
repairs.
am. There we
Yeah.
go. I got one. Yes, okay, Picken Street Bridge repairs. This is kind of interesting, yeah.
Yeah, so I have a resolution for council. So council will recall that there are been some concerns about the bridge at Picken Street and Wallace Road. So let me read the resolution for you. Whereas the Government of Nova Scotia's Department of Transportation has determined that the Picken Street Wallace Road Bridge requires certain repairs that are projected to cost approximately $52,000. And whereas the Province of Nova Scotia's Department of Transportation contends that the town of Westville is responsible for 50% of the costs of maintaining and repairing the Picken Street Wallace Road Bridge. And whereas town staff have confirmed that funding made available to Westville through the Sustainable Services Growth Fund can be expended on bridge repairs, therefore be it resolved that Westville Town Council endorses committing $26,000 in SSGF, that is Sustainable Services Growth Fund funding, to pay for the repairs of the Picken Street Wallace Road Bridge on a without prejudice basis.
So moved, Your Worship.
I'll second that motion.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? Ready for the question?
Question?
Question's being called. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. That has been a lingering issue for some time, so it'll be good to see it
Good to see
resolved
that.
for sure.
I think we should point out that one resident who has family living on the other side of that bridge put a lot of effort. I mean, we were aware of the situation before he got involved, but Gord Chanel was out there examining the bridge and having input and so on, and I think that should be acknowledged when a citizen comes forward and goes above and beyond the call of duty, that we should recognize a person for doing that.
Well said.
Your worship, will, through the CAO, I guess, will these repairs now, I know it was Public Works and their bridge folks that looked at it, assessed it, kind of made these determinations. Are we comfortable that this would allow us to return our vehicles, our town fleet, to cross that bridge once the repairs are made?
Unfortunately, no.
That was not.
Reason being?
Yeah, why?
Yeah, the superstructure isn't being, the foundation isn't being
They're
addressed.
not doing that. Okay.
So it's a challenge for me to kind of look my staff in the eye and
Yeah.
say, you can drive a fully laden salt truck across the bridge. And notwithstanding the fact that the bridge inspector thinks that it's all's okay. So
Right.
this is an abundance of caution on my
Yeah.
part. I'm not comfortable sending staff on that bridge having, I know nothing about bridges, but I don't like the look of it.
Right.
Is there an estimated time of when this construction can start, this repair work?
Yeah, I think it will happen this fall.
Okay.
And you notice that the motion, the resolution that we accepted had without prejudice on it?
Yeah.
So we're not,
Yeah.
we're not assuming anything by doing these repairs. that,
Right.
That liability-wise. So just so you know, bridges, the way bridges work in Nova Scotia is that the surface of the bridge is the responsibility of the municipality that it happens to be in, but the structural part of the bridge is a provincial Department of Transportation, or whatever they call themselves these days, responsibility. So, and that's where the problem is coming, that the CAO is alluding to, that they are saying that it doesn't need the repair, I guess, basically. That's fine structurally.
Right, and isn't half of it considered to be in the county?
And part of it is yes, it's a shared bridge. It's county and town and province, so we have three bodies involved in it, right? But
So
as I
how
say,
is the county not fiscally responsible?
Not three, just two.
Well, two.
Yeah, because the Department of Transportation takes care of all
They
the
own-
road
they own the
work
road, yeah.
for the county.
County
Right.
doesn't own it.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just the two, yeah, and I guess,
Sorry, can you explain that?
There are many bridges, there are a number of bridges in Nova Scotia where the province has 100% responsibility. My argument with the Department of Transportation is that that bridge should also be one of those bridges. The government of Nova Scotia and myself are at odds over this particular issue.
Okay.
And, but we should be doing the repairs. The repairs that are being proposed are largely with regard to the deck and importantly to the guardrails leading up to and the grading leading up to the bridge. And so my anxiety, my first order anxiety, is that with winter coming, I don't want somebody on some icy morning or evening to slide off and not have adequate guardrails in place, and they currently are not adequate. On the issue of the foundation, I'm not a bridge inspector, but I don't like the look of it, and I don't feel comfortable ordering our staff to drive heavy equipment across that bridge until something is done to it.
Yeah.
And I just also don't believe that Westville should be on the hook for the cost of that.
Your Worship, it should be pointed out as well, when this situation first came to the fore, that we showed more caution than the provincial engineering people, and that our CIAO did more than due diligence by notifying school authorities about the school bus going over there. And if we're concerned about sending salt trucks over, what about the school bus? Does the school bus still go over that?
I don't know, but I don't believe so.
Yeah, because you
They
did
were told.
do the warning way back, and we thank you for that too.
Okay. We're good with that, Secretary Reid? Has that been handled properly? I have to keep checking because sometimes I forget if we had the motion actually voted on. So the addition then to Megan's Place?
Yeah, so resolution with regard to Megan's Place. So council, you'll recall that, well, let me just read the resolution. I guess it's pretty self-explanatory. Whereas the town of Westville released a design, build, install RFP regarding Megan's Place in July of 2024, and whereas Westville received 5 responses to its design, build, install RFP, and whereas a 6-member committee made up of town staff and community members independently reviewed and scored the submitted RFP responses, followed by a group discussion and review process, which resulted in the unanimous selection of Dirt Road Contracting being selected as the proposal that provided the best mix of design team, and price. Therefore, be it resolved that the proposal submitted by Dirt Road Contracting be approved, therefore be it resolved that the proposal submitted by Dirt Road Contracting the Dirt Road Contract be approved.
He wrote it, by the way.
Be approved, the design, build, install contract with a contract price of no more than $470,000.
So moved, Your Worship.
I'll second that, Your Worship.
Moved and
Sorry
seconded.
about that.
Quite all right. And the 400, just to be clear, the $470,000 is monies that we have raised through donations to this point in time to cover the costs.
Correct, Your Honor. So to date, the town has raised approximately $600,000, a little over $600,000 to go towards Megan's Place. And so this would be the kind of upset limit. You know, I can say that, you know, we did establish an upset limit for the design, build, install, and all 5 applicants came probably within about 5% of that. So some were a little below, some were over, which was problematic, but they all came sort of in the zone. And this particular group, Dirt Road Contracting, had the best price, design, and design team.
And can you just speak to the timeline with regard to this?
Yeah,
project?
so the next step, let me start that way. So now that we have a consultant and an initial design developed, I will be putting together another committee of disability organizations from across Pictou County, Westville and Pictou County, to work closely with the selected contractor to refine you know, the details of the design. The design is the design, you know, kind of initially. There will be, as there always are in these things, you know, some tweaks that may be needed. And so that will occur this fall. And I would think that in the late fall, there could be work done on the site preparation. So removing the current playground equipment, refurbishing what we can, storing that till the spring, and then preparing the site for construction that would happen likely in the early spring. The idea being that by late spring, say end of May, early June, that there be that the playground be completed for a soft launch with a more formal public launch probably on the end of
Anniversary.
July, coincident with the anniversary of Councillor Bragg's passing.
Thank you very much.
Just
Councillor
a question, yes, Scott. Wondering, can you tell us a little bit more about the design details? I know you probably had like 7, 8 different design proposals
Yeah,
put
we
forward.
had five
Okay.
proposals. Yeah, boy, it's hard to, well, let me do as best I can. The winning design, and there were a couple like this, actually, that made tried to marry two different styles of playground.
Okay.
So all of them focused on inclusion and accessibility,
Accessibility.
obviously. But the winning design included what I would call commercial playground equipment. So the kind of steel and plastic stuff that you would see at most playgrounds. They combined that with a more natural playground, so using logs and sand and those sorts of things.
Right.
So it provides, the current trend in playground design is to go towards the more natural
Yes.
products or building materials. And so, but sometimes those are actually less accessible.
Not accessible.
Right. And so what the designers tried to do is kind of marry the two, provide that kind of creativity for free play and those sorts of things at all age groups with greater accessibility, greater inclusion. There is a wall, I think they call it a sensory wall. So for children or adults, for that matter, with autism or those sorts of things, that that kind
Are
of thing.
visually impaired as well.
They've incorporated shade structures, importantly, and benches for, the caregivers or guardians or parents.
Which will be an
of-
advantage for the splash pad as well.
Exactly.
So
Something
they're
that's been
actually
missing.
proposing to
Right.
put it between they're proposing to put it between the splash pad
And the playground.
and the playground. So they, this particular, and all the proponents did a reasonably good job of incorporating the existing reality there, which is the splash pad. I mean, they all knew that we were going to get rid of the existing playground equipment because it's, some of it
Outdated.
has life left in it, some of it has relatively little life left in it. We're going to have to make those decisions over the next number of months. But,
But none of it was accessible.
yeah,
No.
and nothing that really is accessible.
Yeah.
So, all of them, there are trade-offs to be made, right? Whether you pour, the rubber, which is expensive but wonderful, whether you use chips, which are less expensive and less wonderful.
Messy.
And one of the new trends is to use artificial turf over the chips to try and up the accessibility without
Taking away the
escalating
safety
price.
factor. Yeah.
Retaining the safety factor without
Right.
escalating the price out of sight.
Smart.
So, I believe that, I believe that Westville, and I believe that, the mums and dads and loved ones of people with disabilities in this town and in this county will be pleased with the result once we get there.
Excellent. Thank you.
It's worth pointing out that we had representation both on the planning for it and on the selection of the proponent that's going to be doing it from that community,
That's
from
right.
people involved
Yes.
in the community. And there was a wide variety of people involved. Council was not, as you know, nor was
Right.
I involved in that selection of the who's going to do the proponent. But I think it was well done on the CAO's part, and appreciate that. So we have a motion, I believe, that was, did we make the motion?
I made the motion, yeah.
We just need,
And Bernie
we
seconded
just
it.
need a second. We just need to vote on it. Ready for the question?
Question.
Question's being called. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. I think it's totally, I'm glad it was added tonight, because there was some question about whether we do this now or wait because of the expenditure amount that we're allocating. Generally, councils in the lame duck stage of the latter parts don't make major commitments, but this one I think was exceptional, and I think it's only appropriate that this council got to approve this playground for Megan because she was a part of this council. And so I think it's very, very appropriate, and I'm very pleased to see that be the final motion, actually, of this current council to endorse
Very fitting.
the beginning of Megan's Place.
And I think important distinction that you touched on, but just to be clear, to reiterate that this is not taxpayer money. This
No.
was all fundraised from residents and citizens and corporate entities and all kinds. So this was just allocating,
The
this-
funds.
Yeah,
the-
there is
the
a,
funds.
there is a small, relative to the total
Right.
budget, there is
Right.
a small amount of taxpayer money. I think
Right.
the
Very
town
small.
is in
Yeah.
for about $23,000
Right.
out of $470,000
Not a half- not a half mil.
Pretty good value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and once again, I think we have to thank the individual people that donated, and as well as the businesses
Businesses,
and
yeah.
corporate community who came through in spades, and just overwhelming response, an immediate response. So we're
And
very
also-
appreciative.
Also, the provincial and federal
Yes.
government, too.
Yes.
Certainly.
We mustn't forget them.
The MLA down the hall.
So some
was the
some of it was
premier.
taxpayer money, but it
And,
didn't come from our residential
Sean
or commercial
Fraser.
tax base, right?
Tim
Circle of
Houston and
life.
Sean Fraser had some input, too, so we should acknowledge them.
So it brings us to the near the end of our meeting, but I have one more thing to do as mayor, representing council. And it's a sort of, I think I'll classify it as a bittersweet moment, because we're saying goodbye to Councillor McKinnon tonight, his last council meeting. And after a long and distinguished career of public service, which goes back some 56 years, I believe, believe it or not.
54.
54? Okay, I exaggerate. That was a Trumpism. But 54
54
years
is a
of
long
public
time.
service, both municipally and provincially, as most people are aware. We're very grateful that Clary didn't retire early, that came back and decided to come and run for council here in Westville, as a Westville boy and a lover of everything Westville related. The dedication to this town goes without saying, and it's obvious, I think, but to anyone that knows Clary, the passion that he has and the abilities that he brought to the table. And so on behalf of Council Clary, I just want to thank you, and we do have a small presentation of a certificate of appreciation that I wish to provide you with. And it's a Town of Westville Scroll of Recognition presented to Councillor Clary McKinnon in recognition of 5 years. That's for this term. You're sitting here, 54 years, as I say, of service otherwise, of dedicated service to the municipal government of the town of Westville. This scroll of recognition acknowledges a significant contribution to the institution of local government. It further acknowledges a commitment to the philosophy, goals, and activities of continual improvement for the town and its citizenry. Presented at the regular council meeting of the town of Westville, dated this 23rd day of September 2024, signed by Deputy Mayor Bernie Murphy and myself, Lenny White, Mayor. Come forward. Oh, you're so kind to get a picture. We appreciate that. Right? Can you get my glasses?
Set yourself up.
Yeah, let's go over here, Claire.
All right.
Here, here we go. Here we go.
Good idea.
Yeah, move the water bottle, yeah. Thank you.
Product placement.
Oh, yeah, probably should be.
Yeah, sorry.
We won't let it
I
crop.
have another one.
I wonder if we can get all the council to come up as well. Like, Sarah, can you get everybody early? And let's get a, it's archival, this is archival stuff, you know? Right? Let's get in here. There you go, buddy. Need the wide angle? Okay, everybody can breathe now.
Don't use the one that I just looked at Jason and because I'd be looking over the top.
Thank you
of your
very
head.
much.
I looked over at the last second at Jason.
Very briefly, you haven't seen the last of me because I'm going to be sitting out there with the regulars and I'll be at that microphone and it wouldn't be a rant or a rave, but you'll hear
Yes.
Larry
yes, sir.
McKinnon, 2326 Cowan Street. So be prepared.
Make one more motion.
Too late to get that money back.
Well, I was gonna say one more motion on the length for question period for next.
Oh,
Yeah.
we do have a policy on that, so we'll adhere to it.
He will not be controlled.
So, this is the opportunity now on public engagement. Anyone that wishes to speak on any matter or questions, come to the microphone, indicate your name and address, and that's all we need.
Dave Dignan, North Main Street. This is just a question for clarification, and I guess it's to the CAO. On your monthly report, I was wondering with the, you have down there with the long-term care facility, I was wondering, you have discussions continue with the LTC providers. I don't know if I missed it. Is this building a government building, a private industry, or is it government run by private? What?
Yeah, so the way in which Nova Scotia deals with long-term care facilities now is that they don't own the buildings. The buildings are owned and operated by someone else, a long-term care provider. And so what the government of Nova Scotia will do is release a request for proposals. Any Nova Scotia, I think it's limited to Nova Scotia-based long-term care operators, can step forward and bid on how much it will cost to to build and then operate on a per diem basis the facility. The government selects the successful bidder. The bidder then goes out and acquires land and builds the facility and operates the facility, and the government of Nova Scotia uses a set of criteria to evaluate the quality of care being given and pays a per diem to the operator.
So what I was wondering though, you have LTC providers, so is there several, or is there just?
Yeah, so there are, as I said, any kind of current long-term care provider operating in Nova Scotia will be eligible to stick up their hand and say, we'd like to bid on the providing of a long-term care facility in Westville. And so that selection will be made by the Ministry of Seniors and Long-Term Care. And they will be the ones who release the RFP. Don't know when that will be. We hope it's kind of tomorrow, but we really don't know. And then, our understanding is the process for from release of the RFP to decision on the RFP is relatively quick in government terms, probably 2 to 3 months. And then following that, there'll be a period of negotiation between the ministry and the provider, and kind of clarification about what's needed and what's going to happen. And then the successful provider will try and acquire land to build the facility.
Well, that's what I was getting at. It's not so much that the town is in discussion with providers.
Well, the town is
We
in
don't make the
discussion
decision.
to the extent that the providers are asking questions about where is their land available? Do certain parcels of land have servicing? Would the town be agreeable to having a facility built on one parcel or another? So we aren't negotiating anything with them. We're providing information at this point so that they can structure their bid to the province.
Yeah, okay. That's, I was just, I didn't know if you were actually in touch with them.
No,
Or
yeah.
was the government, but you people have been speaking
Right.
with some providers.
Your worship, I think it should be pointed out that the prime location is actually owned by the town, so all of them will be dealing with the town in some way or another.
Once the province decides that that's the location. So the province will, we said this, I think it's worth repeating more than once, so people are aware that so where we are right now is that the province, some time ago now, announced that the long-term care facility was going to be built in the town of Westville. That's where we are. The next step, as the CAO has said, is for the province then to put out the request for proposals for those that are interested in operating and building and operating that facility. Those are some of those proponents, likely proponents, have approached the town, as the CAO has said, for information and to help them when that time comes to make their proposal. That's the extent of it. They all are aware that we don't make the decision. We don't make the decision. As you know, we had the public consultation, public engagement as to, what citizens thought about the best location. Overwhelmingly indicated the Highland School property, former Highland School property, which is council's recommendation as well. As soon as the announcement was made that the facility was coming here, we contacted the department to say, we realize that you make the decision, but here's our preferred location within the town of Westville. They'll still have to determine that. We've been pushing the department, to the minister in particular, to get that RFP out. We were told it would be the fall. Here we are. I think it's fall now. So Minister Adams, if you're listening, please get the RFP out as soon as possible so that we can move this thing forward. And that's where it stands, really. And so that property, is going to be utilized for the long-term care, hopefully, obviously for the proposal of the apartment complex and with other things. And I think you might have left the last meeting, because I know that you brought up daycare, Mr. Dignan, and part of the proposal for the school is going to be daycare. So I think a lot of people are going to be happy to hear that.
Your worship, this is my last opportunity to jump in on a situation, so I would just like to comment that the town played a significant role in presenting a plan for 96 units at one point. And we were very lucky to get the 48 units that we're getting, but we had a role from the very beginning. We were pushing for that as a council, and
these are new beds, by the way. These aren't the replacement for the Glen Haven, that the deputy mayor sits on the board of Glen Haven. That's to be replaced, as people know as well. This is additional beds. These are new beds, so-called. So we're at a different, the rating system as far as getting things built and getting proposals out. What I understand from talking with the minister is that we're elevated because of that fact that we are new beds. We're not replacement beds. So we're very hopeful that the announcement will come. I'm hopeful that it's going to come within the next month or so at the very latest. And then we'll know with certainty who it's going to be and get that site selection done and so on. I mean, one of the things that would be great, and council's discussed this, it would be ideal if if we knew, because we are in the stages of finalizing the development agreement, we will be, and the detail of the proposed renovations to the school building and some of the property. Be nice to be able to do those at the same time, and have the two entities actually working together to coordinate what they need on the space and for parking and all those things. It would just be so much easier. I've conveyed that to the department, that this is one of the reasons that we're anxious to get on with it, because it would be very helpful in the process of what's going on, right? So that's, it's exciting stuff. Anything else? Anyone else? Jason?
Jason Thompson, Spring Garden Road. This expression of interest in putting a substantial development, 24 units on Spring Garden, where would that be?
That's in the development
Sean's.
officer's report, I
Sean's
believe, right? Planning report, I'm
So,
guessing that is.
because-
I think it was an inquiry. It hasn't
Inquiry.
gone beyond any stage of other than someone looking at a piece of land there on Spring Garden Road with the idea, the possibility of, a 24-unit or whatever development there. Nothing beyond
Yeah.
an inquiry.
Just because we all know that the infrastructure for the sewer on that street is already overrun.
You've certainly brought that to our attention, well known, yes, absolutely. Yeah, but it is at that stage, Jason, that it's only an inquiry. As often happens, right, developers or even individuals will call our planning office to check zoning, number one, as a first step, right, to see if the zoning's okay, and check some of the infrastructure, like you're saying, to ask about that before they spend any money, really, in even developing a plan. But that's the first step, and that happens quite often. So it's a hopeful step, and that just goes to the fact that we keep talking about all this land that we have, and people are seeing it.
And I wasn't the only one that had backup.
No.
Because when
Yeah.
I had D&B plumbing come install
Yeah.
the valve,
Right.
they said, it's funny that we're here because 2 days prior, we were just up the road from you, so.
Right.
More than just, so.
Yeah. Yeah. Guy down the back there knows all about those things as well. Chris Seelig, our acting superintendent of works in the public works.
And to the residents' point, to Jason's point, I guess, Your Worship, as these developments come through and, the more significant sized ones, your 24 units, what have you, I think it's important that, that we really do these capacity assessments on our infrastructure to be, very sure that they can, withstand whatever is going to be, whatever's going to be built there. And I do know there is discussions with the public works and things of that nature, but I think like these bigger ones, we most certainly are going to.
In our asset management
Yeah.
committee, I mean, it's vital going forward to look at these things, as is water. And I think, CAO Weirs, I want to clarify because it's out in the public that we're looking at, we're doing water investigation for other sources of water. That in no way implies or signals that we are having a water issue in town, supply issue.
no.
We do not currently have a water supply issue. I want to state that publicly, and please pass it on far and wide if you can, because, I guess you're subject to rumors starting when you start talking about some of these things, and so rightly so. I can see that some people might assume because we announced that we're looking at finding other sources of water, doing some, but it's only to be proactive. Because of some of the stuff we're talking about, we're hoping for more development. And as well as the infrastructure of sewer and that sort of thing, we need to know that if we continue to grow, we'll have sufficient water for the development. And it's only for that reason, not that we have a problem now. We currently do not have a problem with supply of water in this town. So I just want to emphasize that, because I know I've heard that from people, what's going on, or do we have a problem? No, we do not currently have a problem. We're being proactive, looking down the road that we may need more water at some point in time. Hopefully, we will need more water. That'll be a good sign.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say that. Anything else? Hearing nothing else, we've come to the end of the agenda. We are adjourned.